Hi everyone, my name is Chris Pavoka. If you don't recognize me, I work on the main floor of the library, and I'm with you today to offer you some book recommendations. Every month, I come up with a list of 12 titles, usually books that are from the last 2 to 3 months, and I offer reviews or like blurbs, recommendations for them. Um, with a good selection of books, different subject areas, things that have been highly acclaimed, things that are popular or trending. Um, and this month, I kind of changed things up a little bit. Instead of doing 12 new titles, I'm going to do 6 new titles that might kind of be hard to get right now with our online ebook services. And then, or they're books that you could purchase on your own, of course. Um, but then I'm also going to provide 6 older titles that you might be able to get right away on one of our uh, digital ebook apps. Um, and most of these are all like highly acclaimed books or books that have been popular in the past, that are still definitely worth checking out if you've never read them before. So let's get started. So the first book that we'll be talking about today is The Boy from the Woods by Harlan Coben. This book is available on Libby as an ebook. You'll have to put it on hold and there might be some waits for it, but it came out last month. And if you've read any of Harlan Coben's books, you know that there are always these thrillers that like once you pick them up, you can't put them down. There's a lot of twists and turns, and they're usually like a lot more intricately plotted than other like thrillers that you might read. This one is especially different or mysterious because the main character was actually like 20 or 30 years earlier, he was found in the woods as a boy with no memory of who he was, what his background was. And then when they flash to the present day, he is brought on board to help find children who have gone missing in their community. And in the process, he kind of like reveals hidden secrets about rich families that have connections to powerful national figures, and in the process, he kind of like figures out more about his background, where like his backstory too. So if you're looking for like intense thrillers that have a lot of different moving parts, um, that might be a really good choice, especially because it has that earlier narrative and then it has the present day narrative. The next book I'll be talking about is The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. You might recognize her as the author of The Secret Life of Bees. And I'd always thought that this author had written more books. Turns out this is only her fourth novel, uh, but it's already gotten a lot of attention and acclaim, a lot of praise from different media outlets. Um, and it's a really bold concept. It's about this woman who lives in the first century in Galilee, in Judea, and she's very much a woman ahead of her time, kind of fighting against the cultural norms of her society. Um, and she's also, like in the book, she ends up marrying Jesus, which is a very bold premise. Um, it has gotten a lot of acclaim, though, in all different quarters. Library Journal said that it is a testament to the author's talent for creating both compelling characters and intriguing storylines. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution said that the book is written with reverence and it strives for historical accuracy. It's an engaging story about a young woman defying the odds to make her voice heard, a story that remains relevant today. And Good Housekeeping describes the main character, Anna, as a courageous, intelligent woman who marries Jesus long before his public ministry begins. So Real Simple also says that it kind of skips over the whole "did Jesus marry" debate, imagines that he did, and asks, so what would his wife have been like? So it's a very bold premise. It's definitely not going to be for everyone, but it had, like I said, it has gotten a lot of acclaim, and it might be worth checking out if you're interested. It it hasn't come out yet. It's coming out on April 21st, and it will be available on Libby. So I think there is the ability to place it on hold right now. So definitely get on that if you're interested. All right, so the third book that I have is Joy at Work by Marie Kondo and Scott Sonnenschein. Marie Kondo is very well known. She wrote The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up and Spark Joy. And she's really known for this philosophy of looking at the things that you own and saying or thinking about whether that item sparks joy. Does it make you happy? And if it doesn't, kind of kick it to the curb. You don't need it. Um, in this book, she kind of takes that philosophy and applies it for the workplace. So, like one tip that she suggests for the workplace is to decide a theme color for coordinating items on your desk. She also says if you want to tidy up so completely that you never revert to clutter again, aim for one simple goal, knowing where everything in your workspace belongs. So a lot of these things might seem kind of obvious, but she talks about it in a way and with a specific mindset that makes it more meaningful, I think. And like her books are extremely popular all over the world. Netflix also produced a show, I think last year, the year before, where she went to people's houses and basically told them how to look at the things they own and figure out whether it sparks joy. So this is her latest book. That's a collaboration with a professor, and it's not currently available on Libby. It might be at some point soon, um, but it might still be worth checking out on your own because her books, again, have been very popular. The fourth book that I have for you is The Glass Hotel, which is written by Emily St. John Mandel. It came out towards the end of last month, and it's written by the author of Station 11, which is a really popular apocalyptic novel, really highly acclaimed, and I recently saw it on a list for books that you have to read if you somehow still haven't read them. So maybe start off with that book, but this is her latest book. Um, and it's described as an exhilarating novel set at the glittering intersection of two seemingly disparate events, of a massive Ponzi scheme collapse and the mysterious disappearance of a woman from a ship at sea. Um, so it's very much focused on these two different crimes at different scales that are connected. Um, and it kind of leads the main characters to a lot of different settings, a lot of um, untraditional, gritty kind of places. So there's an underground electronica club. There are campgrounds for the near homeless. The international shipping business, service and luxury hotels, life in the federal prison. Um, the book summary, it says that the novel is a captivating portrait of greed and guilt, love and delusion, ghosts and unintended consequences, and the infinite ways that we search for meaning in our lives. So this, in case you couldn't tell from that write-up, or from that summary, this book is a very complex, like character-driven, literary adventure mystery. So if you like adventure novels or mysteries with a little bit more um, like descriptive language and some more character focused, like almost psychological, realistic storytelling, this might be a good choice for you. So the fifth book that I'll be talking about is The House of Kennedy by James Patterson. Right now, you can put this book on hold on Libby. It's available as either an ebook or an audiobook, but again, it's a new title, so it might be a little bit of a wait. Um, a lot of people might be surprised that I'm recommending a James Patterson book because I'm not a big fan. Um, Although I admit that his books are extremely popular. But the reason why I chose this one is his nonfiction books are also very popular and best-selling, and they do a really good job of taking real life events and giving them more, making them more exciting, basically. Taking stories that, when told very matter of fact or just with like cold hard facts, might not be as exciting. So James Patterson kind of gives it that narrative spin that makes you not want to put the book down. So this particular book is about the Kennedy family, and the write-up book summary doesn't really give that much of a description of what the book is about, other than it's about the Kennedys. But obviously, there is a lot to unpack about the Kennedy family throughout the 20th century. So there's definitely a lot there, and knowing how James Patterson approaches narrative nonfiction, it should be a really entertaining read. The last new book that I'll be talking about today is Lisa Wingate's The Book of Lost Friends. You'll probably recognize the author's name, Lisa Wingate. She's the author of Before We Were Yours, which has been the It Book Club book over the past few years. This novel is another female-centered historical novel, but it takes place in two different time periods. One in the post-Civil War South, and then I don't want to say the present day, but the like modern times. It's 1987, so not too far back, but still a little ways back. Um, Now, the older narrative, it focuses on three women who are on this journey from Louisiana to Texas during Reconstruction, so a very contentious time throughout the country, but especially in the South at that point. And one of the three women is a freed slave. So part of the story is her trying to figure out whether her family still is out there. Um, and the two other women also have their own backstories that are all central to this historical narrative. Flash forward to 1987, we have a teacher, a first year teacher, who kind of uncovers the story of the three women on their journey, and talks about with her students and talks about how it's relevant to their lives. And it's a very inspirational message, um, and very much focused on the history of the country and the history of the region. So if you liked Before We Were Yours, or if you generally like historical fiction, this book will definitely be a good choice for you. Right now, it is available on Libby, but because it's so new, it's very popular, so you'll also have to put this one on hold too. But luckily, next we'll get started on some older books that you shouldn't have to wait too long for, or you might be able to get them on Hoopla, and not have to worry about waiting times at all. So now we are on to the older books that I selected this month. The first book that I chose is 100% a classic. Also, on a side note, part of the reason why I chose these books is because they are all books that I either have at home in my own collection, or they're books that I have checked out right now from the library from pre-coronavirus outbreak. So I'll get started with my first book, In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. If you haven't read this book and you like true crime, drop everything and read this. It is exceptionally well written. Like when I was talking about James Patterson and how he writes his nonfiction books, take real life events and kind of make them more interesting and entertaining and exciting. Truman Capote did that in 1965. So this book basically it's known as the first nonfiction novel. So if you're into narrative nonfiction, or you like nonfiction that reads like a book but still is, I don't want to say 100% accurate, because there are some inaccuracies in this book that are intentional, I think I've read in the past, but it's pretty true to the facts. It's a very brutal, sobering murder that was committed in Kansas, really small town in rural Kansas, and Capote goes in depth focusing on the crime, the investigation, everything. It is like it is the precursor to everything true crime that we read or watch today. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. Luckily, it is available on Libby as an ebook and an audiobook, although you might have to put this one on hold too. Luckily, you can also get other books that he's written, like Breakfast Like Tiffany's. I just checked, and that book is available right now. So if you want to check out some of his other books first, then give this one a go. Do it. You won't regret it. So the second older book that I'll be recommending today is Evicted by Matthew Desmond. As you can see, it's a library book. I checked it out pre-coronavirus, and I'm actually reading it for a class right now. I'm going for my Master's of Library Science at Simmons, and I'm taking a class on like outreach and services for diverse populations. So this book talks about housing insecurity and homelessness in the United States, but specifically focuses on 8 families in Milwaukee around the 2008 financial crisis. And so it talks about like their lives, their experiences, kind of where what brought them into the situations they're in, and kind of what happens during this time period to them. So it's a very humanistic, empathetic book, but it draws attention to a really serious issue. And the author is really arguing that housing insecurity and homelessness is a major cause of poverty that was kind of overlooked. A lot of times he says that people draw attention to other causes of poverty very justifiably, but this one kind of gets overlooked a lot. So obviously it's a heavy topic, but and like the characters themselves, like the families, like their lives are so like heart-wrenching, and it can be very bleak. But it is a really ultimately it's a very empowering read and a very again humanistic read. So stay informed, read Evicted. The next book I have is something that I've never read, but I've always wanted to. It is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. This book is extremely, or I don't know if it's as popular now, but it has been very popular in the past. And now it's been adapted to an HBO show. They're actually on their 2nd season, so I think they're taking the 2nd novel and adapting that for television. But this is book 1 in a 4-book series, I think. They're all set in Italy, and this is the first novel in the series, and it focuses on the like childhood of these 2 women and like their friendship. And the book summary actually says that it's about 2 women in the 1950s who live in a very poor but vibrant neighborhood on the outskirts of Naples. And like so the 2 characters, Elena and Leela, their stories are very much connected to the path of the country and in the story. Elena Ferrante apparently gives her readers the story of a neighborhood, a city, and a country undergoing momentous change. So this is very much a coming of age story, but it's connected to the cultural, social, like political change that's happening in Italy in the mid 20th century. And again, like if you read this, you can go on HBO and you can watch the TV show after. So that'll keep you busy while we're all in our COVID-19 quarantines right now. The 4th older book that I'll be talking about today is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This book is a little bit more obscure, but it has been extremely popular in our library network over the past couple of years. And you can actually get it right now on Libby or Hoopla. I think there are some wait times for the copies on Libby, so you're better off just going on Hoopla and checking out either the ebook copy or the audiobook copy. They're both available there. Um, so no wait times to read this one. Robin Wall Kimmerer is actually a botanist and a professor and a member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. And this particular book, if you read the whole title, it focuses on indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teachings of plants. So Kimmerer has a really unique perspective, coming from both a scientific background and with her own indigenous identity and culture, and she draws on her knowledge from both of these areas to talk about the natural world and humans in a really unique way that a lot of people have found to be really meaningful. I haven't read this book yet. I plan to, but like I said, it has been popular in our network and has gotten a lot of acclaim. Um, Elizabeth Gilbert actually has a quote on the back of this book. She says that Robin Wall Kimmerer writes about the natural world from a place of such abundant passion that one can never quite see the world the same way after seeing it through her eyes. In Braiding Sweetgrass, she takes us on a journey that is every bit as mythic as it is scientific, as sacred as it is historical, or as clever as it is wise. So it's available right now on Hoopla, ebook and audiobook. So definitely give it a read. So the fifth book from my list of older titles is The Plot Against America by Philip Roth. This came out in 2004 originally, but it became more relevant recently since HBO produced a miniseries that's directed by David Simon. Um, David Simon's considered like one of the best TV screenwriters, directors of our time. He produced The Wire and a lot of really acclaimed shows on HBO. This story is very impactful because it focuses on alternate history, where FDR loses his reelection to Charles Lindbergh shortly before the U.S. became involved in World War II. And Lindbergh was suspected of, he was an isolationist, so he was suspected of being Nazi sympathizing, and because of that, also suspected of being anti-Semitic. And Philip Roth has, like his entire career, he's considered one of the most acclaimed writers of the 20th century and wrote from a Jewish American perspective. A lot of his novels focus on like the Jewish experience in the United States. So he kind of drew on his family's own experiences during this time period in New Jersey. That's where he grew up, where his family's from. He draws on their experiences to kind of talk about this alternate history where Charles Lindbergh, suspected of being Nazi sympathizing and anti-Semitic, becomes president, and a Jewish family and an entire community is really fearful of what that means for them. So a very provocative subject, which Philip Roth is like the dictionary definition of provocative. But if you read this and you find it meaningful, HBO, like I said, has produced a miniseries, so that might be worth a watch. That miniseries has Winona Ryder in it, John Turturro. It's a great cast, so definitely check it out. All right, last but not least, I actually have a YA novel for you guys. This is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. It's actually one of my favorite YA novels. And as you can see, it has a lot of awards from different literary societies. I think one is from the American Library Association, so librarians approve. But to put it simply, this book is a hopeful coming-of-age story with important insights about family and friendship. It would really appeal to those who liked The Sun Is Also a Star, which is another YA novel. And it's a coming of age story. It's about two Latino boys who are kind of grappling with their identities in different ways. So they're grappling with what it means to be Latino, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a human, how to treat other people, how to like think about the world more critically, and to like approach to think about relationships and family and friendships in a much more complex way. So it's a very, very good book. Um, it's very character driven because it is about Aristotle and Dante, two people discovering the secrets of the universe. There's a lot to unpack there. But it's, like I said, very character driven, a very empathetic book, a very, like I said, with Evicted. It's a very humanistic, human-centered story that just makes you feel better about humanity. So definitely give this book a read. It is available on Hoopla as an audiobook, so it's available right now with no wait times. And then it's also available on ebook, or it's available as an ebook and audiobook on Libby. But I think there are some wait times for the ebook, so if you want to jump right into it, the audiobook on Hoopla is an option. So those are the 12 books that I'm recommending for this month. I hope that some of them appeal to you. Um, and I'm sorry that that the library is closed and that some of those newer books that might sound really interesting to you that we can't provide those to you right now. But definitely check out the different digital apps that we offer. So Libby is a great app. Um, it's it's basically like a digital lending library. So you can put things on hold. You can only search for books that are available right now. So you don't have to worry about wait times. It's a really, really valuable app, and especially in a time like this where access to the library isn't possible, it's immensely valuable. Um, Along with Libby, there is Hoopla, which kind of is like a version of Netflix, but for ebooks, but TV shows, movies, like music CDs. And normally there would only be there'd be a limit of 3 items per month. But because of everything that's going on right now, we've increased that limit to 10 items per month. So I mean, there's a really good selection of material on there. Some new releases. So definitely give those two apps definitely check them out. If you have any questions, definitely email the library or like reach out to us on Facebook. We can definitely try to set you up with using one of those apps over the phone. We really want to be able to connect you with like the resources that the library offers, and to kind of help you find some um, peace and some stability among the chaos that's happening in the world right now. So on that very overstated note, definitely reach out to us if you have any questions. And if you're still watching this video, thank you so much for listening. And I hope that one of these books sounds appealing to you. Stay safe, guys. Bye.